That's what we're talking about. Welcome to 4FanSports.
From the worst college basketball tournament in our lifetime, a.k.a. Louisville winning, is the team I called in November.
Because
there's a special place in Wildcat Hell for UK fans that go celebrate in Louisville with U of L fans for this.
Absolutely. We gave Louisville fans so much coming to Lexington and celebrating with us. And now any UK fans that are hanging out in 4th Street Live.
Like, I don't feel anything from 4th Street Live. Like, the reason we went to State Street is because Twitter and Facebook was just blowing up with all these people and all these pictures of fire and cars being attacked and all this ginormous crowd of people and it's a wave of people, and I don't see this. Like, my Twitter is full of the Syracuse-Michigan game.
In their state, it's like a
Guess how many he's got? Quattro.
Oh, my.
I'm sorry to break character, but...
Now, let's calm down, folks. It wasn't that impressive.
I want Michigan to win, but, I mean, I'd like Syracuse. I'd like Michigan to hit a game winner or something, make it nice.
That was pretty impressive.
Sound the podcast klaxon!
That's me, the boy with the broken halo. That's me, the devil won't let me be.
Hello and welcome to the 4FanSports podcast. I am Josh Wilson and I am joined by staff writers Tyler Hobbs.
What's going on?
And Nick Rapier.
Not much, Hobbs. How's it going?
And joining us for our NCAA championship podcast from BeyondTheBoxScore.com, Mr. Ryan Potter.
Good to be back, fellas.
The prodigal son has returned to the podcast kingdom. All right, so in the first Final Four matchup, we had Louisville versus Wichita State, and the Shockers didn't really want to go home. Nick, what do you think about the Louisville and Wichita State game?
Well, the Shockers nearly pulled off the shocker. They played a really good game for the first, 37, 38 minutes of the game. They had a game plan. They executed well. They kept Louisville from executing their game plan, it looked like. They played great defense, rebounded well, hit enough shots. They didn't really hit that many shots, in all honesty, but they hit enough shots to keep them in it. And, they led. They led by, double digits, high single-digit points for quite a long time in the second half. Eventually allowed them to come back, and it was unfortunate. What did you think, Potter?
Well, I think they failed in their key component of their game plan, which was to outscore Louisville. They had to score more points than Louisville did, and it looked like they were really going to do it. They had a good shot at it. They were executing that part of their game plan very well in the beginning of the game, and they just failed at the end. They put up a good effort, but that part of the game plan really shot them in the foot.
I wish we had a cricket sound effect to play right now. But anyways, Hobbs, what did you think about Louisville and Michigan?
I think Louisville
and Wichita State.
I think that Wichita State had them. I think they had them down 11, maybe even 13 at one point, and then they started playing not to lose, and then that's basically the concept of a losing formula. Whenever you start playing not to lose instead of playing to win, that's whenever your team becomes complacent. They start just running down the shot clock and then putting up a shot before the shot clock expires, not taking the smart shots, and then Louisville climbed back in. Wichita State I don't think they committed a turnover in like the first 25, 30 minutes of the game, and then they committed 3 in like 30 seconds. Give Louisville a lot of credit. They came back and they scored buckets when they needed to and created turnovers and played solid defense, and give the white people on Louisville's team some credit also for carrying the team virtually.
You're right, man. Luke Hancock had a hell of a game. I forget his exact stat line. He had like 19, 20-something points.
Yeah, he broke 20.
Great game. Unfortunately, we didn't have the Ripley people on hand to count how many times Kevin Ware was shown during the game, but I would assume it was a world record.
Judging by my level of alcoholism, I'd say they set it up by a whole lot.
Well,
those playing at home, we hope you followed along. But the 4FanSports official drinking game of the Louisville-Wichita State game was to take a drink every time that Kevin Ware was shown on screen, and we've been drinking all day here, folks, and that contributed thoroughly.
And if you think that it's going to stop now, wait till we get to the national championship game. I mean, they may have him commentating the game and do a picture-in-picture of him on the screen the entire time, just so we can see Kevin Ware.
You have the longest waterfall of all time.
Just so we can sit there and watch, Kevin Ware drink his Powerade and pump his fist and, in the end, look at all of his chest hairs like he was towards the end of the game.
It'll be on the main screen, and then in the corner in a little box will be the game.
Exactly.
Yeah, they'll play one shining moment, and it'll be him, crutching across the court.
Kevin Ware's back.
And so graceful, breaking his leg.
Well, I mean, it's all jokes and everything, and we've given a lot of credit to Kevin Ware. Like we said, he's a great kid. But I think it's safe to say it needs to be done, and it needs to be over with, because that was ridiculous how many times they showed. Louisville made a basket, Kevin Ware was on there. Wichita State made a basket, they wanted to see Kevin Ware's reaction. Patino calls a timeout, and Kevin Ware's being watched. I mean, it's like Kevin Ware.
Have you ever seen an athlete be paid so much attention to for being injured? I mean, like, the only other athlete I can think of would be like Barbaro.
That's because he got shot and killed.
He really like.
Speaking of shootings and killings, now apparently 4th Street Drive is under riots, and people are going literally insane in the city of Louisville. Let's just go ahead and make some comparisons here first. State Street was insane. Someone's car was set on fire. It was flipped over. It was the craziest thing I'd ever seen in my entire life. And yet, Louisville fans are still doing what they were doing a year ago, which is shooting people and blaming basketball on it.
Louisville should not be celebrating yet. We were celebrating last year because we beat Louisville in the Final Four. Louisville hasn't won anything yet. They beat Wichita State in the Final Four. Like, come on, guys.
They were favored by 10 or 11, depending on the day you took your bet. And
the only reason there was a celebration on State Street was because it was against Louisville, and it was the biggest game in this state's history.
Exactly.
That's why there was a celebration on State Street. Not because we won a Final Four game. We've been there before. We act like we've been there before.
I think it was interesting to see the whole game. When it first started in the first half, Louisville just kind of looked shocked. No pun intended there. They didn't really. They were just kind of standing around. I mean, they went I think it was 4 or 5 minutes without scoring anything. It was 8-0 for the longest time, and
I think first half in general. I mean, 26-25 is not exactly what we would like to see.
No, but what I'm saying is,
I think was much more exciting.
I think what we talked about in the last podcast about the distractions, I think the distractions got to them. I think Louisville didn't come in ready to play. And, like Nick said, Wichita State had the game for about 37 minutes. And then they didn't go for the kill. They never got to that point where they could get to the kill. Louisville started playing pretty good, and then they still had a chance to win the game until that real quick whistle got blown on that held ball.
Which was just an awful call. Can we talk about that for a second?
Hate
that was an awful call. Let's not pretend like that was the tell-all be-all of the game. Wichita State, even if that jump ball wasn't called, they still had to go down the court and hit a desperation three.
It's true.
But they would have had the opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. That wasn't like the end-all, be-all, but it did end the game. That call ended the game, and then they didn't even get a chance to go for a win. And it's something that we've seen kind of happen recently in college basketball, is that the players no longer get to decide the game anymore. The refs try to decide the game, and it's pretty awful. I mean, there's no telling what could have happened if they let that call go, and because when they made the call, the ball was already out of Ron Baker's arms as he was passing it to his teammate. But that's neither here nor there. Clearly, I'm a homer, and I just didn't want Louisville to win. But
all right, so our second Final Four matchup of the day was Michigan and Syracuse in a highly touted, highly argued, highly debated 4FanSports matchup of Michigan versus the Dome. Hobbs, what did you think about Michigan and Syracuse?
I think it ended in a questionable call on the block charge, but the block charge is questionable in the least. Alright, I think that it ended in a controversial block charge call. The block charge call is controversial in and of itself, but the referee had to make a decision even though he made the wrong one. And that's all I have to say about that.
Alright. Potter, what did you think about Syracuse and Michigan?
I was upset about it.
Dude, he's got to scoot up closer.
I was real upset about it. As a native of upstate New York, we don't lose to football schools. Basketball's all we've got.
Well, to be fair, when you first picked Syracuse to go to the Final Four, I thought you were insane. So, kudos on getting that, though.
Hey, I got that as well.
Yeah, nobody cares, Hobbs.
I picked my Final Four was Syracuse, UK, University of Kentucky, right? Oklahoma State and Ohio State. Now, UK didn't make the tournament. Oklahoma State lost in the first round to God knows who.
Oregon.
Somebody. Ohio State lost to Florida Gulf Coast, which I wasn't even sure was a real thing.
They lost to Wichita State.
The most false thing that I've ever heard. The most false thing that's ever heard.
And Syracuse lost to Michigan, who is a mediocre football school.
All right.
I mean, George Robinson was not walking through that door, guys. Syracuse was supposed to have this on lock.
Well, Potter's definitely back because he made an obscure not walking through this door reference. So, Nick, what'd you think about the old boys in
I took my pants off during the last minute or two of the game.
Potter's hammered. I just want to put that in the podcast. Leave it in. Potter's hammered.
As the voice of reason at 4FanSports, I've been trying to tell you all tournament long that Michigan will be here and is the only team that had a chance to dethrone Louisville in this tournament.
Not dethrone, they weren't the champions.
They were proclaimed the champions at the beginning, but the number one overall seed.
I don't think you said Michigan was the only team to beat Louisville. I think you just said Michigan was going to win it all.
He did eventually say at one point that Michigan was our only hope.
If you listen to previous podcasts,
occurred.
Look, Hobbs, if you would listen to the podcast that you're in, maybe you would know this. But since you don't listen,
like the sound of my own voice.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Wilson. And Hobbs, why don't you let Daddy talk for a second? Where's Kansas at? All right. Anyway,
they were up 14 points on the best team in the country.
All right, we're not gonna talk.
3 or 4 rounds ago, are we talking? They've been home for weeks now.
Kansas and Michigan anymore.
Kansas has been home for weeks now.
If we did the Kansas-Michigan podcast, that would be different.
I'm just saying, did you have Louisville playing Michigan in the national championship game?
I didn't, but hindsight says I should have, and I probably should have. My pride,
we all should have.
My pride, I let my pride get in the way and said Duke would beat them. I probably didn't really think that. It was more wishful thinking. Regardless, they're there. Michigan's there. I'm expecting a great game and a high-paced game, which both games, Wichita State tried to slow it down against Louisville. Syracuse tried to slow it down against Michigan State. In the championship game on Monday, you're going to have two teams trying to speed up the pace, score lots of points, force turnovers, jack up shots. It's going to be two games against, teams with similar game plans. And at the end of the day, whoever executes theirs better is going to be the victor. I think it's going to be an exciting game to watch, and I'm very excited to watch the said game. That being said, I fully expect Michigan to or cut down the nets. I fully expect them to, like I fully expected them to long, long ago in a galaxy far, far away.
That leads me to my next point. We do have the national championship. Of course, we already said that we got the Final Four matchups right. We got the national championship right. And we picked Michigan. We all picked Michigan to win. And of course, Nick picked them from November. So I want to kind of put the brakes on that. And so that way Louisville fans don't just jump ship right now. Nick, why don't you tell us how Louisville beats Michigan in the national championship?
How Louisville beats Michigan is they rebound extremely well, which they sometimes do, sometimes do not. They cannot play like they did against Wichita State. They're going to have to knock down shots. Peyton Siva is going to have to score a lot more points than he did today, and that's fair enough. I think that's to be expected. They're going to have to force several turnovers, and that can or cannot happen depending on how Beeline prepares Michigan for the press. And that being said, they're going to have to also knock down their shots. Today they knocked down just enough shots to win, but the amount of shots they knocked down today is not going to be near sufficient enough to beat Michigan. But, needless to say, it's anyone's game. And whoever comes out and plays and whoever comes out and performs is going to be the national championship. It's going to be the national champion at the end of the day.
All right. Hobbs, what do you think the matchup to watch for in Michigan versus Louisville is going to be? Once again, we've said it, but as we get closer to the championship.
A lot rode on Mitch McGrary's success against Syracuse. Mitch McGrary was efficient in all aspects, especially in the first half. I think he was on pace for a triple-double in the first half. So I'm going to go with Mitch McGrary versus Gorgie Jang, and I think Mitch McGrary holds his own against him, but I think Gorgie Jang is a better player, but Mitch McGrary is having a better tournament.
Absolutely. Like I said earlier tonight when we were talking, and like I saw on Twitter earlier too, this is the best month of Mitch McGary's life, basically. He's been playing outstanding. I think what will be interesting in the Louisville-Michigan matchup is how Gorgie and Mitch are going to play against each other, who's going to be able to play with that force down low. And then also in that, if Trey Burke shows up, in the game of Michigan versus Syracuse, Trey Burke wasn't very vocal as far as scoring. He's a floor general, he's a leader, so he does things that help his teammates set up to be this hero. But Trey Burke didn't have a stellar game, so I think if Trey Burke doesn't show up for the national championship, which, let's come on, it's the national championship. How do you not show up for the national championship? But if Trey Burke doesn't show up for the national championship and, Patino and the college find an answer for Mitch, then I think it might be a little bit better of a game. It might walk away with the worst thing to happen to college basketball since 1986, which is a Louisville national championship.
Gorgie has to show up for Louisville also. Gorgie against Wichita State had 0 points and 6 rebounds, 4 fouls. I think he has to do better than that. And Russ Smith has to shoot better than he did.
Honestly,
he put up 21 points like he does. He had 5 turnovers, however, and he shot 6 for 17 from the field, which is just unacceptable. And 5 of 12 from the line. Go ahead.
Honestly, I think in the matchup of Gorgie and Mitch McGary, I think Mitch McGary is going to win that. Gorgie had a lot of trouble with what was his name?
The big guy from Wichita State that no one knows the name of. Continue.
Carl Hall. Was that who that one was?
No, it wasn't.
Okay. So he had Carl Hall.
He was combined on Early and Hall.
Yeah, so
decent games.
Early and Hall both had decent games. They both came at him pretty hard. And like we said, Mitch is having the best tournament I've ever seen. Now, out of somebody that you've never really heard of before. We heard of the names of Hardaway Jr. and Robinson III and TB3, but Mitch McGary wasn't really a name when people thought of Michigan this year. So I think he's definitely been the factor in their success, and will definitely be the factor of their success in the national championship.
I think the game's really going to hinge on how well Louisville's guards, or how well Michigan's guards handle the Louisville press. Louisville can stifle you with how much pressure they put on you in the backcourt. I think Michigan's guards have a good enough handle to be able to get through that press. I don't think it's going to be a problem for them. That's why I think Michigan's going to win.
If they press.
That's true. They
kind of laid off the press a little.
They didn't really use the press.
And then they used it, and it was successful.
Yeah,
but
it's
which was stupid. I don't know why they. I guess they went in with the understanding of the troublesome of a dome, and so Pitino played up to that factor, and then went back to his roots and started pressing, and it worked out. Go with what you know.
I think Michigan and Spike Albright tonight proved that the zone is not really going to affect them. So if Pitino comes out in the zone in the national championship, Michigan's going to take full advantage of that. Michigan, as we talked about the dome effect, didn't shoot terribly behind the three-point line. My boy Stauskas, who I said wouldn't go 0 for 6, went 0 for 5.
4. Just 4.
4 tonight. So that's obviously a problem. But at the same time, now you got to think they've got a game behind them in the dome. So if their shooters had some issues, they might have been able to work out of them tonight and be ready for the game on Monday night. Or since it's the end of the tournament, our favorite moments of the basketball season or tournament, whatever. Potter, you are the guest technically. Go.
That's a tough question up front there. I don't know. I really like the tournament run of Florida Gulf Coast. I thought that was fascinating for a team that nobody had ever heard of and hadn't been playing in Division I for 3 years or something like that.
Yeah.
I thought it was awesome. I really loved watching that. I was rooting for those guys. I hoped that they would win it all. I knew it wasn't possible. So.
All right. Hobbs, what about your favorite moment from this year?
Why don't you let Nick go, because I know what his is going to, or I think I know what his is going to be, and I don't want to steal his, so let Nick go.
All right, Nick, what has been your favorite moment of college basketball this year?
Well, there's no way you were stealing this one, but my favorite moment of the college basketball year so far. I'm just kidding, Wilson.
Oh my God,
Wilson, you have to cut that out.
We'll see.
We'll think
You
about
have
it.
to cut that out. Anyway, my favorite moment of the college basketball season is yet to happen. It's going to happen on Monday when finally, and thank Godfully, that the Louisville fans will finally shut the hell up, because I'm so sick of listening to them, and I am certainly ready for Monday, in which they will finally quit talking so much.
All right. Hobbs, what about your favorite moment?
Well, I thought I was going to steal Nick's, but apparently not. I'm going to go with Trey Burke's game-winning 3, or not game-winning, game-tying 3 against Kansas to send it to overtime. I thought that was the highlight of the tournament. It was kind of the perfect ending to what I thought was the most competitive game of the tournament, and for 4FanSports was the most riding on game, I guess you could say. The game with most riding on it so far in the tournament.
All right, that's all. All of everything that you all said is definitely in my top moments of the tournament. I guess. Or of the year. I guess my moment of the year wasn't so much a moment of the year as it was a person. And it's sadly was Nerlens Noel. We went into this year with Kentucky basketball, time for 9. We thought we were riding high off of a national championship. We came into the season and it was less than stellar, to say the least. And then you had this kid from Boston who came in and who had every reason to be like this big superstar diva who didn't want to talk to anybody or anything like that. But he comes in, he starts working with elderly people, he works with sick kids, he talks to Lane Goodwin, he's a great kid, the heart and spirit of our Kentucky team, and unfortunately his Kentucky career, we can at least assume right now, ended abruptly and shortly, and it was terrible, it was emotional, and it was really sad. But by far, he was the highlight of my college basketball season this year, with the exception of signing the number 1 recruiting class again this year. Watch out, Revenge Tour 2014.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Gonna learn today.
Gonna learn today. So there we go. We've got the national championship Monday night. Michigan versus Louisville. 4FanSports is taking Michigan due to Nick Rapier's November bracketology article. If you haven't checked it out yet, you need to check it out now because the guy's a prophet when it comes to picking a national champion. So we'll be seeing you around. This has been the 4FanSports podcast. Again, we want to thank Ryan Potter for returning to the 4FanSports podcast, and make sure you keep checking out his stuff on Beyond the Box Score. Potter, thank you.
You're welcome. Yep, you're welcome, gents.
All right. So for Nick Rapier,
That'll be me, and don't sleep on my psychic abilities, folks.
and Tyler Hobbs.
I'm finally done not having faith in Michigan. Nick has finally convinced me. Go Wolverines. For the love of God, go Wolverines.
I'm Josh Wilson. This has been the 4FanSports podcast. Go Blue and keep moving forward.
So we're in reverse. Let's go, Michigan.